All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome. I'd like to call the June 18th School Board Business Meeting to order, and we will start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance if you so choose. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The board would entertain a motion for approval of the agenda with the suggested motions and resolutions. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda.
Motion made by Meisner.
Second.
By Anna. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. Up next on the agenda would be the superintendent and staff reports. Dr. Lewis?
Well, we could not let him go without another time to come to our board meeting. So Dale, we are thrilled that you're going to come up and give our spring activities recap. So come on up. Thanks for being
Yeah,
here.
he's hiding back there. Welcome back, Dale.
Thank you.
It's been like 3 days since I saw you, I think.
That's what I'm saying. I'm bummed about the fireworks, so that's
Yeah.
something I was frustrated with. Okay, but hello board. I will be giving the Springs activity recap, and I'm going to start off with our main activities. So here are a few things that we did. So band and choir. The Fridley High School's band and choir showcased their talents in concerts the last week of school. The FHS Jazz Ensemble, Varsity Band, and Concert Band performed a Decades concert featuring music from the 1950s throughout the 2000s. The FHS choir featured ensembles, small groups, and soloists performed a women in music concert. Next we had was prom. Prom attendees walked the red carpet at the Grand March in early May as a part of the 2024 prom, which was held at the Luminaire in Minneapolis. It was a glitz and glamour as families watched their juniors and senior students. This annual event precedes prom and gives students a chance to show off their formal wear. Next we had Model UN. Over a weekend in April, 31 middle school and high school students participated in the YMCA's Center for Youth Voice Model UN Conference. Model UN is a hand-on civic learning program where students in grades 7 to 12 take on the role of diplomat from one of the 193 countries, engage in respectful discussions about the states of the world, and explore solutions to international challenges. The FHS Music Department traveled to Chicago over spring break. Students experienced the skyline, beautiful architecture, and unbeatable entertainment. Some of the highlights included a Broadway show, medieval times, Field Museum, and the Hancock Building. The choir sang a beautiful basilica, and the band performed in the Great Hall Field Museum, next to a dinosaur fossil. Our group received numerous compliments from guests at the hotel and ultimately represented Fridley with pride. Next we had art. 8 Fridley High School student artists had their artwork showcased at the Minnesota State High School League Visual Arts Competition at the Pure Pitch Center for Arts. Some of those names were Next Win, Remy Anderson, Yi Win, and Arnie Trench. And improv. On Saturday, April 13th, Fridley High School improv team was invited to participate in the second annual Twin Cities High School Improv Festival at the Pym Arts High School in Eden Prairie. Our students participated in educational sessions taught by professional improvers and the University of Minnesota professors. Our hilarious group of students performed for their peers to wrap up the day. See, I was trying to do that, but it didn't happen. But yeah, next up on our agenda, we had our sports. Overall, we had 7 sports activities for spring. We had 185 athletes, 6 all-conference honorable mention, 8 all-conference, and 6 state participants. 10 seniors received academic all conference with the GPA of 3.4 or higher. So really embodying that student athlete portion that we try to have with all of our Fridley students. Golf, we had seniors Aaron Johnson and Vern Valen do a great job leading the rest of the young golf team, and they were able to participate in the sections meet. Boys tennis, we had a lot of fun. It was a really good season. We were led by us 5 seniors, but we really had our freshmen Jacob Thiessen and Max Fellner really show the way and improve a lot. So they were able to do really well at our sections tournament, so we're rooting for them next year. And then softball, we had a young team but competed well throughout the season. They ended with 3 athletes having a batting average of 3.3 or higher, so that's amazing. Yeah. And then baseball started off their season great with spring break trip to Florida and they battled throughout the season with one loss in extra innings in sections. And then last but not least, we have our badminton in the second season of badminton. They had 30-plus athletes this year that competed in 3 meets. And we had our adapting bowlers. 7 bowlers competed in the state tournament, and Bolero and Blaine and represented Fridley with pride. And next I'm going to have the boys state track and field champions come up and talk to us.
Thanks, Dale.
Yeah.
Hello. For those of you that don't know who I am Lizzie Winkleman. I'm, in addition to being a Spanish and AVID teacher, I'm also our head track coach. Who knew that you could win an entire state track meet with 6 kids? But honestly, if you knew these kids, you wouldn't be surprised by that. They, especially this season, persevered through a lot of injuries across the board. We had a new sections, which that meet was 2 hours away, 2 different days. So for a total of 8 hours of traveling. It's a lot. We had some coaches changing and of course just navigating academics while they did it, but really just a phenomenal crew that we had. While we did have a pretty young group this year, we had a lot of commitment from our returning athletes, especially this group that is with us today. But they did a lot to set a good example for our underclassmen, hoping to keep some of that retention coming out into our future seasons. So for all these athletes that attended state this year, this is either their 2nd or 3rd year attending state. We had a weird season their freshman year, which would have been that COVID year where it was, and we were still just single A and double A. So that was a tough year to get into state.
Yeah.
But so a lot of them helped guide many of the younger athletes this year just to show them hey, this is what you have to do to achieve these goals. The showing up to practice every day, doing what you got to do, the being the role models in the hallway. And on top of that, they are just also not just phenomenal athletes, but they're also just phenomenal kids. Every time somebody came up to me at this meet and was like, wow, your kids are doing so great. I was like, yes, here are these other things that they do so well. And just the other things that they're involved with. I just kept saying this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience with a once-in-a-lifetime group of kids. So this group worked really hard this season to get where they got. And they did a lot to show the other schools that we Fridley, baby. So I'm going to open it up to them if any of them would like to speak to their experience this season.
Don't be shy. Or at least stand up so we can honor you. We would love that. Yeah. So proud of you. Thanks,
We're missing 2, so Lorenzo and Isaiah could not be with us tonight, but
Yeah. Before we play the video, Lizzie, do you mind? So one of the things that we purchased this year through activities is a cricket. And so we were Kayla was able to make these right away, and they wore these in the parade. So
That's
this
awesome.
is all cricketed. So it just shows we can quickly make cute personalized gear. And as you can see, it's the proper F, it's the proper Vegas gold. So I just wanted to highlight that. So thank you. And then now we have a video that we would like to showcase our team. It's okay. That's awesome.
And triple jump, Fidel set the record with 47.3, right? And then Lorenzo set the record in the 300-meter hurdles with 37.6, 37.9, something like that. 37.6.
Well done, young men. This isn't just talent either, right? Like, you guys have to work at it. So congratulations. And like, spring sports is tricky because it's not like you can kind of ride this out in school. A lot of spring sports are still going on right now. So thank you for sharing this with us. We'll certainly spread the word. Dale, you can come back anytime.
Yeah.
Fellas, I would encourage you to come back next year, talk to your underclassmen, point to that trophy and remind them of what you did and what it took to get there. And yeah, you guys are all welcome back. I'm assuming you're all seniors, right? Yeah. Yep.
Lorenzo, he's not here tonight, but he is a sophomore.
Okay. All right. So we got the future's bright. So, but seriously, fellas, like, this is huge. Thank you very much for sharing and taking the time to come hang out with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Coach Reese, anything to add? Okay.
Said it all.
Okay.
I would meet with them next week and go through the whole design of rings.
Oh, I love that.
And I've told them that Justin has an immense personal budget. I got a jeweler. I got a guy, Justin, if you want, I'll hook you up.
Actually, that's funnier than you think. So I was about to say where that was actually coded to, that cricket, and I didn't. So now I will. So anything pretty much purchased through activities, we call it Superintendent's Office Cricket housed in activities. So that's actually funnier than I think you meant it, Chair. So
Often the
that's
case
great.
with me.
That sounds great. And athletes, coaches, you can either stay for the rest of the update or you can leave now too. I won't be. You were the highlight really of that of the meeting, to be honest. But we were so thrilled to have so many of our graduations and celebrations with our littlest learners, to the clap outs that we had of our students, our seniors going into the other buildings, and our ALC graduation, etc. One of the things I wanted to say really about our graduation venue is I think it really showcased to our community, our students, our families, and our staff deserve that venue. And I was so proud to see and how well it went. And we were kind of Northrop, we were a trial for them, and they invited us back for next year and could not stop talking about how great the experience was. So I was just really proud of that venue, and I think it showcases our district so well. So really pleased with that. Here's some statistics for that. We graduated 24 students with highest honors. And in addition to that GPA of 3.75, they need to have a minimum of 3 IB courses, of which they also take the exams. 34 graduates with high honors, 3.5 to 3.74. 18 graduates with honors, 3.25 to 3.49, and 2 graduates with associate's degrees. So definitely worth celebrating our students. Okay. This part is going to be really boring. So
You will not, guys, you will not offend us.
certainly stay, but thank you. It's so good to see you. And now I have to take a little bit of a moment because our referendum partner, Donovan Group, is tuned in. So I didn't mean that this is boring to our referendum partner. She's about to text me, I think, and say something. But anyway, one of the things, of course, we know tonight the board is going to take a vote on pursuing a referendum with 2 questions, and Ron is going to lead that work. I wanted to share about should that be voted as yes, we want to pursue that tonight. I wanted to share really what the district's role is in the referendum work. So sometimes when we hear about referendums, we think of vote no or vote yes groups. That's actually not the district's role. Our role is really about the facts behind what the referendum pieces are, and it's also about empowering people to vote. So tonight you'll see, I'm not going to go through every piece of this, but this is really the work that our partner does side by side with me and the cabinet team. They're also available to advise the board, again, not on one side or the other of the referendum, but just on how do we key message that out. And Donovan Group has had a wealth of experiences doing referendums, and our representative, Tracy Jentz, and I have worked together on 2 referendums, and we also worked with Donovan Group. At the time, she was not with Donovan Group, but she is now. So I really believe in the work that Donovan Group does. We vetted 5, I'm looking at Stephen and Laura. I think we vetted 5 or so different referendum companies. And what we found with Donovan was some of the companies were very intimidated by Fridley, intimidated by looking at a district with the racial demographics that we have, looking at a district that is, here's the school district boundaries, here's the city, right? Looking at our students who are living in poverty. So Donovan Group rose to every challenge. I did not send information ahead of time, and when we vetted them, it was as if they had all that, well, they did find the information, and they really made it personalized to us, and you could tell that they just really care and they want to invest in Fridley. So that makes me just feel very excited, and I wasn't honestly surprised about that either. And Donovan has experience in both question 1 and question 2, like we're going to be proposing to you. So you'll see here the 5 key messages that we are going to really talk about from the district lenses. Why are we a source of pride? And also, what are the needs that we have, both operational and from a facilities standpoint? How do we respect the needs of our property taxpayers and make the most of every dollar? This goes back to our strategic planning. How are we fiscal stewards of the dollars that come into our district? Number 3, this is front and center tonight, right? As we're looking at our list of deferred maintenance during our session, we were seeing that deferred maintenance being addressed in real time. How do we not only take care of financing the deferred maintenance now, but how do we ensure that we rectify this so that in 10 years from now, the district isn't making choices about things that should have likely been funded earlier, and instead of paying a $7 million price point, perhaps it could be $600,000 when we do it in a different way, or in an earlier time frame, to be quite honest. Also, how is that new operating levy? Should it have successful passage? How does that help us with maintaining stable funding and investments into the lives of our students? What does that actually look like? And then number 5, how does that approved bond, question 2, positively impact every district facility? And that's the great thing. And I didn't even think about it this way until Tracy said it to me. She said, well, this is impacting every building, because she had looked at that. And I think that's a major sell for the community too. Like, this money will touch every single building. And I really appreciated that she brought that to the forefront for me. Here you have a communications calendar, and we'll send this out or upload it so that you'll see. So you'll actually see these actioned on here, depending if the vote is yes from the board. You will see our work already has essentially begun. Things like press releases, fact sheets, our presentation slide deck. This is very important. The presentation slide deck is something that Donovan will work next to us and really design that, but it's something that if I'm presenting, I use that same slide deck, then Stephen would be presenting to a community group, then Laura would be. So we have our common talking points as well. That's something that our board could use too, to present on that. Starting our set of referendum FAQs, for example, Tracy's already working on this. How do we have $30 million for zero tax impact? And by the way, why will the ballot language say on question 2, this is going to cause your property taxes to increase when the district just said it wouldn't? So those are some examples around FAQs. Also things peripherally related that our community would have, but not directly to the referendum. Let's get to the facts about open enrollment. What does that look like? How do we do that? So Tracy has already been working on that. We're going to have a linked to our page, and I want Lori to keep me factual on this. Separate referendum page devoted to that, but linked to our page. I said that correctly. Great. And then you'll notice all the same branding, all of those pieces, so that everybody can recognize that right away. Then as we moved into July, our continued weekly social media posts. So we are not at a place in July where we're doing a post a day. This is really about let's get it out, a post a week, starting to think about presentations with local civic groups, our mailers, what are some of our videos. Another piece that we loved about the Donovan group is they come and they make professional videos for us. And while those professional videos will be about referendum, there are also pieces we can use for years to come as well, celebrating Fridley Public Schools. I'm really excited for the referendum toolkit that we will have in July. August, again, similar things that you're seeing. Now we're going to be launching this information in the school newsletters. What is our postcard mailer going to be looking like? Voting information, staff and family messaging. So you'll see the pace and the frequency starts to pick up the closer that we get. Again, September, very similar information, however, a little more intense and more of that information that we have. October, again, another postcard with the voting information, staff and family messages. One of the things I was really impressed with Donovan Group on is I talked about, a large percent of our families are not voter eligible because of them living outside of Fridley Public Schools boundaries. For example, they live in City of Fridley, but they're in Columbia Heights, but they choose us. How do we involve those families in messaging, even though they can't vote? How do we involve them in that? And so these are pieces where we will have all of our families receiving this information that I'm talking about. It'll just be tailored to eligible voters within Fridley Public Schools boundaries and our families that live out, but families will not be left out just because they aren't living in our boundaries. So we're excited about that as well. Then it comes to our November, again, much more frequency around the social media posts, our referendum page. Again, at this point, it's going to be refreshed often, right? Lots of information, our reminder messages, and then ready for our post-election messaging, which we have on multiple medias. And also Donovan Group has been great about everything being translated. So that's a quick look at what our work will look like as we move forward. Wanted to talk about board members, your communicators as well, right? So a list of dues that you can have here are sharing factual information, answering questions, what are the needs, accurate descriptions, etc., which you will have all that information. Don'ts would be using district resources and equipment to support either side of the voter box there. And then we can't have you sharing information that's private information. This brings a really good example to me. We had a request by an organization to get addresses from us. I just sent that to Maggie Wellner, our attorney, and she said, yep, good to go on releasing that, Brenda. So those are the type of things. We've also talked to the partners that have approached us already, and I've just said, we will respond to you as quickly as we can. Just know that we run it by our attorney so that we make sure that we follow that. So much more to come on this, but I just wanted to really give you the framing. Should the vote be yes, we want to pursue referendum tonight. These are real basic fundamental things that I wanted to share with you about what the district's role is. And with that, Chair, that concludes my superintendent report, but happy to answer any questions.
Great. Any questions? No?
Thanks.
Okay, I think next up we have a referendum presentation.
Yes, and Ron Meyer is going to do this presentation as well as our budget summary. Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
Good evening, Chair Knopp and Superintendent Lewis, members of the school board. Happy to be here this evening. For a number of months, the school district has been engaged in conversations and planning around the potential of running a referendum election in November of 2024, as Superintendent Lewis just gave a little bit more information about. These conversations have revolved around the operating budget challenges, as well as questions around how to fund the significant facility needs across the district. So tonight is really a culmination of that work. So with that, the purpose of tonight's meeting is really, or this presentation is to bring forward the administrative recommendation for both the operating referendum as well as for the bond referendum for the November election, as well as also to highlight some of the next steps that the board can expect even here this evening. As I just mentioned, and you can go forward, thank you. As I just mentioned, the finance department, along with the superintendent and other district leaders, have been engaged for months in an extensive evaluation of the district's current fiscal realities, as well as to forecast the financial landscape of the district for a number of years here in the future. Additionally, the district has engaged the community in multiple surveys and formats to understand their view of the district, as well as their potential support of a referendum vote in the fall. All of this work has helped to inform the recommendations that are being brought to you here this evening. So to answer the most obvious question on why the district needs additional revenue, one must look back at school funding here in Minnesota over the last 20 plus years. In doing so, you would see that over those 20 years, funding levels have lagged behind inflation, as well as the overall cost to educate each student. This has forced individual communities to authorize additional funding through operating levies to cover this gap. For Fridley Public Schools, a new operating levy would have a significant impact on our ability to maintain the level of educational services our families expect and deserve. So with that, the recommendation before the board this evening is to approve question number 1 for the November election for an operating levy of $424 per pupil unit. Next slide. Voter approval of this $424 per pupil unit would equate to about $1.165 million for each of the next 10 years, starting in the 25-26 school year. The tax impact on a $250,000 home value in the district is about $10.83 per month. And the average home value in Fridley, which is currently at $313,780, would have their taxes increased by about $13.58 per month. As I mentioned a few moments ago, the approval of this referendum is essential for the financial stability of the district and to reduce the projected budget gap that is expected in future years. And although there will likely need to be budget reductions in future years, approval of this operating levy will reduce and limit the amount of those reductions. Consequently, if the operating levy is not approved, the district will be looking at significant budget reductions starting in the FY26 budget cycle and continuing into future years. Additionally, because of continued projected budget deficits, an operating levy election would likely be needed again in the fall of 2025 to generate additional revenue. So shifting gears to the facility needs and the second question that is being recommended for the vote in November of 2024. This recommendation this evening is for the board to approve a bond referendum for November that will generate not to exceed $30 million of resources for the district. For this second question, there would not be a tax impact, as Superintendent Lewis mentioned a little bit earlier, for property owners, and this is really because of the way the district has structured their debt in partnership with our financial advisors and around a bond levy. So we do have some bond levies that are going to be falling off the rolls, and that has really allowed us to structure the debt for this $30 million without additional tax impact to our taxpayers. The benefits to the district, if this bond referendum is approved, is multifaceted. These additional resources would be used for safety and security improvements at each of our sites, as well as several facility renovations and repairs all across the district. Additionally, approval of this second question would allow the district to shift about $1 million of what is currently being budgeted in the general fund for facility renovations and repairs, which also then helps our long-range financial stability in the general fund for the district. If the bond referendum is not approved, the challenges in the general fund continue to exist and create more need for significant and impactful reductions in the future. It also will result in important repairs and renovations not being completed at our facilities, which will likely lead to the need of the district considering another bond referendum in a future year. So in summary, the recommendation before the board this evening is for a 2-question referendum in November. The first question is for $424 per pupil unit operating referendum to help bring financial stability to the school district. The second question is for a $30 million bond referendum to address safety and security needs, facility repair and renovations, and to create some financial relief in the general fund. As a reminder, that second question would not have a tax impact for property owners. The next step in the process is that later on here in the board meeting, during the action item section of the board meeting, the board will be asked to consider action on 2 matters. The first is to approve a resolution calling for the election in November. And the second is to approve the review and comment documents that are required to be submitted and approved by the Department of Education for bond projects that are being considered. These documents were prepared by a combination of our legal representation, our financial advisor, our construction management advisor, as well as our finance and leadership team. If these approvals occur this evening, it will give our finance team and the leadership team the green light to continue the referendum planning process. And so with that, I'll turn it back to the board chair for any questions.
Nope. I'm very thorough. Thank you. And then up next, I think we have a budget.
I need a vote.
Oh, we need to vote on that right now? Okay. So the chair would entertain a motion relating to increasing the general education revenue of the school district, authorizing the issuance of school building bonds, and calling it an election thereon. I have a motion.
So a single motion can be used to approve both resolution questions, right? The levy and the bond. It's a single motion, I think, to hold the election and ask for the 2.
Relating to increasing the general education revenue of the school district, authorizing the issuance of school building bonds, and calling an election thereon.
So I will move to approve the motion, I guess, for both the levy and the bond.
The bonds.
And the election, yep.
I'll second.
Motion by Meisner, second by Anna. This is a roll call vote. I'll signify by saying aye or nay. Miss Anna?
Aye.
Miss Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Keeler's not present. Mr. Meisner?
Aye.
Miss Stark?
Aye.
And myself, motion passes. So now I think we can move to the budget. What's that? Oh, the review and comment. Okay. Next, the chair would entertain a motion for the approval of the review and comment.
So moved.
Motion made by Stark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Was it Jones? This is just a straight up vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Now we can go to the budget summary presentation. Thank you, Ron.
Good evening again, and thank you. Before you this evening is for consideration and approval of the fiscal year 24-25 budget. The proposed budget before you this evening is a culmination of the work by the finance department, the superintendent, and other district leaders that started really last September with the approval of the preliminary levy. And then in December, I was fortunate to be with you with the approval of the final levy in December. School districts in the state of Minnesota are required to approve a budget by June 30th of each year for the next fiscal year. And so with that, I'm going to walk the board through the budget document that is before you. And at the conclusion and during the action item portion, request your approval of the FY25 budget. So I want to draw your attention to the budget document that's included in your board packet. And it is also going to be presented here on the screen. I'm going to walk you through some of the various components of the budget document. For those of you that have been through the budget process before here at Fridley, you'll notice that the format of this document is a little bit different than in previous years. And specifically, this document is designed to not only give the board and the public the budget information, but also to give some of the context to the numbers. So with that, I want to briefly walk through some of the different sections of the document, starting on page 4, which is where the executive summary section begins. First, with looking at our district class size targets. This is a key component of our staffing model, which is a large portion of our overall budget. Then we go into a summary of school finance in Fridley Public Schools, and for that matter, Minnesota schools in general. We walk you through in this document the different funds that we have here in Fridley with a brief description so that you have an understanding of how those resources are accounted for and used. Then if we shift to the bottom of page 6, we also included a history of the increases of funding from the state of Minnesota, which the state of Minnesota is the largest funding source for the school district. As we mentioned in the referendum conversation just a few minutes ago, the gap between what the state has approved for school funding versus inflation has continued to grow over the last 20 years. And while there is certainly optimism that came out of last year's legislative session, specifically that the basic formula allowance would be tied to inflation, there still is a significant inflationary gap that exists from the years of funding at a level that was lower than inflation. Page number 7 shows our enrollment trends here in Fridley, as well as our enrollment projections. Enrollment is a key component to our budget as it is the basis for much of our funding. You will see on page 7 that we are projected to continue a trend that we've seen over the last several years of decreased enrollment, with a total budget enrollment amount for FY25 K through 12 of 2,336 students. Page number 8 is the start of the financial section of the document, and page 9 shows the reader the first snapshot summary of the general fund balance, with the FY25 proposed budget included. As the board has heard in previous school board work sessions and meetings, we are anticipating to be deficit spending in the general fund for FY25, which we also alluded to earlier in our referendum presentation. The column on the far right side of the graph on page 9 shows that this deficit spending is anticipated to result in a negative general fund balance of over $233,000 for FY25. This continues to reinforce the need for an operating referendum this fall. Going down to page number 10, it shows the fund balance summary of all of our other funds. I will draw attention just to a few of the important components. First, on the food service fund, you see that we continue to spend down the high fund balance that we previously had a couple of years ago, specifically in investing in equipment and other important components to a successful food service program. Free meals legislation and funding has given districts more financial flexibility to upgrade and update aging equipment and infrastructure, which we are currently engaged in. The next fund is a community service fund. This is a fund that has maintained a negative fund balance now for multiple budget cycles. The district is currently engaged in a 3-year plan to bring this fund back to a positive balance. And you will see that we are anticipating making improvements by almost $200,000 for FY25. And again, engaged in a 3-year plan to get that back to a positive fund balance. You see at the bottom of the graph that the total fund balance for all funds is expected to decrease by approximately $8.6 million, with the bulk of that decrease coming from the general fund. The last few pages of the document go into more specific details of the budget and school finance. The last thing that I want to specifically point out is the graph on page 11, which shows the breakdown of revenue and expenditures for the general fund specifically. You will see that revenues broken down by the source of that revenue. It's important to point out that about 78% of our revenue comes from the state of Minnesota, with about 16% coming from local taxes, 4% from the federal government, and the other 2% coming from other local sources. The expenditures on this chart are broken down by object series. You will see that just over 74% of expenditures go towards salaries and benefits of the teachers and the staff for the district. We are a people-intensive business. Another 17% goes towards purchase services for things like transportation, facility support, and other operational contracts and supports. Capital expenditures and supplies and materials each represent just over 3% of the general fund expenditures, and the remaining amount is utilized for other expenditures and financing uses. The last 2 pages of the document give a breakdown of the levy pieces, simply for community members to see how their tax dollars are being budgeted and utilized. Finally, included in your board packet as a separate document was a memo from Jason Mutzenberger, the Director of Finance, with a summary of the revenues and expenditures that are being proposed for each of the district funds for fiscal year 2024-2025. And with that, it is the recommendation of the finance team and the administration to approve the FY25 budget as outlined in that memo and as presented here this evening.
Ron, I think this was an excellent presentation. I just wanted to say before we call for a vote here, a couple of things. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about excellence and transparency in finance, right? Yep. This is public document. We aren't hiding from the public. Ron, could you go to that LTFM line? I just want our board to kind of zoom in on that because that's related directly to question 2 with respect to we're about $960,000 deficit spending there in LTFM. Just wanted to see how that's related in our second question referendum impacting our budget. So if you don't mind just doing a quick review on that one. Let me find that page. Do you have it in front of you?
I don't think Lori
Yep.
can bring that up.
Sorry about that, Lori.
It should be on page 9.
Yes, page 9. 961811 is our negative fund balance for that line item. Just wanted you, because we've talked a lot about how, you know where I'm going.
Yep, and so again,
Thank you.
in that line item, we get the district, all districts in the state get a dollar amount per pupil for LTFM. And so historically, because of the significant needs that we have across the district, we do have a negative fund balance. Part of the overall strategic plan related to our facilities, including LTFM, including the bonds that we just sold, as well as part of that comprehensive plan, and then the $30 million bond referendum that we are recommending, or that the board just approved for November, is all a part of a comprehensive plan in order to start to address some of the significant facility needs that we have. So LTFM plan is a plan that the board will approve. It's required by July 31st of each year. That is a plan that we continue to update every single year, and we will do so again here this year as well. And so we look at deferred maintenance certainly from this line item with LTFM, as well as some of those additional requests from our taxpayers for the bond referendum and some of those other bond levies that we have had in the past. Again, we just talked about some of those are falling off, so we have utilized a combination in the past as well, and that is part of the planning as we move forward as well.
We simply don't have enough funding in that, and then it comes out of the learning bucket. So
yeah, right now we do, as I kind of mentioned in the referendum conversation, we budget a little over $2 million a year in the operating budget for repairs and maintenance as well. And so that is a reflection of the significant needs that we have, and the fact that our LTFM program simply can't sustain the amount of needs that we have. So part of that $30 million bond referendum will go to help alleviate some of that budget crunch that we have in the operating budget as well, in addressing those deferred maintenance needs we have.
$2 million is a lot of instructional money that we could repurpose. So thanks. I'm sorry I put you on the spot. No. You did great. Thank you. Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, any questions for Ron before you leave?
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out too. I was going to say the same thing. As a business and finance guy, I really appreciated this report and the information in it, and the format and the clarity, the summary and the details. It was really well done. So kudos.
I appreciate that. I will give kudos to Janet Doman and Jason Mutzenberger, who Jason wishes he could be here this evening. They put a lot of work into working certainly with other leaders in the district to put this together. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the school year 2024 and 2025 budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Stark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Anna. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next up, we have, I would entertain a motion for the adoption of policy 797, which involves post-issuance debt compliance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Stark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Anna. I believe this is just a normal vote. It is. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next up, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Jones. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Meisner. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, approve by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And Lori, there's got to be a typo here. Oh, I knew it. There can't be 0 important dates. Is there 2 pay? Yep, there's back double-sided. I figured as much. So important holidays. Of course, tomorrow is the district and state and federal holiday for Juneteenth, June 19th. Summer Rise program begins on June 24th. Very excited about that at the Fridley Middle School. Lots of work involved there, so thank you to everyone that has been involved in that. Looking forward to the Youth Community Theater, the Seussical Junior, June 28th at 7, June 29th at 2 p.m. here at the high school district auditorium. We have a week for July 1st through the 5th for blackout for activities. We also have the district holiday for Independence Day on July 4th. And Fridley Public Schools Board meeting, next meeting will be on June 16th, work session at 5:30, open forum at 7, business meeting at 7:30 here at the Fridley Community Center. On a personal note, I would add that the Fridley Baseball Association will be holding a school resource officer and police officer appreciation baseball game on June 26th at the community fields, at Commons Park Fields 1 and 2. Activities and food will start at about 6 o'clock. So if you can make it to that, that'd be great. With that, I think we're adjourned. Do I have to take a motion to adjourn? I feel like I do. Yeah. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Stark, second by Anna. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We are adjourned at 8:18. Thank you very much, everybody.
One of these days I'm gonna